Good evening. Welcome to another live feed on my YouTube channel. We're going to get to the 1976 Major League Baseball season, known as the Big Leaguer Emancipated. What that means is that after a century of being enslaved by the reserve clause, major leaguers are given their freedom in the form of modern day free agency. For better or for worse, the game will never be the same. Why is that? Because Andy Messersmith became the first major leaguer to successfully rip apart baseball's suppressive reserve clause and signing a lucrative 70-figure deal with the Atlanta Braves and ushering in the era of modern free agents. So to the owners of baseball, it was the holy grail, and to the players, it was the devil within. And by 1976, it would be dead and buried. The reserve clause was a short and for the owners very sweet passage of language first adopted in 1879 by the National League to bring fiscal stability to the game at the expense of the players. The clause gave major league teams the perpetual power to shackle their players from signing with other teams at will. So a rampant practice that had caused the collapse of whole teams, if not whole leagues. There was no players' union to fight it, resulting in imbalance of power and raised ball players. They voted in 1890 by forming their own circuit, the Players' League, to try and regain upper hand, but it became a red 1 year when it down to see a red ink due to capital and high legal costs, confronting the other leagues in court. For the next 85 years, the reserve clause reigned supreme over major league players. The 1922 anti-exemption given to baseball only strengthened the owner's legal position on the matter. But when Marvin Miller became head of the fledgling Major League Baseball Association, Players Association in the late 60s, he closely studied the clause's language and spotted a weakness in its long-standing claim to perpetuity. The Miller clause read that a team signing a player did reserve the right to resign him for the next year, but if that player went unsigned through that second optional season, he would become a free agent at the end of that year. This is if the reserve clause had gone unread since the 18th century. But when word of Miller's interpretation reached the owners, they grew nervous because they felt Miller had uncovered a valid challenge to the clause. The owners could have met Miller halfway or better on the clause and negotiated a deal to neuter its power while retaining a major majority of control in the game. They instead made three crucial mistakes through the early 1970s that will forever haunt them. The first mistake was to inexplicably give away crucial leverage by allowing an independent arbiter to rule on a player's grievances, including any challenge to the reserve clause. The second mistake was to hire as that arbitrator Peter Sates, a stately 70-year-old man who relished poetry, somehow beknownst to the owner's basketball star Rick Barry as a successful attempt to defeat NBA clause, reserve clause word for word without baseballs. The third mistake would be the owner's continued addictive arrogance of playing hardball at contract time, which led in 1975 to two unsigned pitchers like Andy Messersmith and Dave McNally to play out their option years and give Miller the ammunition he needed to take his case to Sykes. In November 1975, Sykes heard the arguments. The union reiterated that their take on the reserve clause names Commissioner Buick Kuhn testifying for the owner said if the clause fell, so would the sky. Half of all major league teams would go bankrupt, he warned. In the end, Sykes pleaded with both sides to negotiate rather than be forced to make a decision. When the owners refused, Sykes gave his edict to sign for the players and slaying the century-old reserve clause as everyone knew it. The owners reacted with scorched earth vehemence. They 5-6 appealed to the ruling to the federal courts where they were rebuffed, locked out the players at spring training to muscle up for approaching labor negotiation with the union, refused to bid on Andy Messersmith. That was until iconoclastic new Atlanta owner Ted Turner waived off the other laws and signed into a 3-year, $1.75 million deal, making him the first true modern free agent. One team that certainly didn't need to go to the open market and sign Messersmith or anyone else was the Cincinnati Reds. Thanks for hitting the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. First off, one fantastic championship campaign, the Reds embarked on another that will be one of the most dominant in history. Cincinnati led the National League in every major offensive category, from batting average to extra base hits to runs to stolen bases. Usually by a wide margin, could have been worse for opponents. The Reds set a National League season record for most runners left on base. Second baseman Joe Morgan remained central spark for the Red Machine, echoing the team's offensive dominance by doing it all. He batted 320 with 27 home runs, 111 runs batted in, 113 runs scored, 114 walks, 60 stolen bases while being caught only 9 times. Had a fourth straight Golden Gloves on defense. Morgan walked away with his second National League Most Valuable Player award in as many years. Four other everyday Cincinnati players hit 300, including left fielder George Foster. 306 batting average, 29 home runs, 121 RBIs. Finished second in the MVP vote. Pete Rose, 323 batting average with 215 hits, 130 runs, who finished fourth. Right fielder Kim Griffey hit 336, finishing close to Bill Matlock in the National League batting race. The Reds first showed the second place Dodgers, who was boss in the National League West, winning 13 of 18 games from Los Angeles on their way to 10-game first place finish, 102-60 record. Then they showed the talented yet overmatched and experienced National League East champion Philadelphia Phillies, who was boss at the NLCS with an impressive 3-game sweep. At the World Series, the Reds were now going to show a self-described boss, New York, who was the true boss in all of baseball. But for the moment, it was quite possible that Yankees owner George Steinbrenner would be content with just getting to the Fall Classic. Boisterous, the demanding shipping magnate from Cleveland, Steinbrenner had bought the Yankees 3 years earlier from CBS, but for 10 years had transformed the fabled franchise into just another Major League team while actually losing money on its investment. Steinbrenner, driven personality, led many to believe that Yankees' revival was on the way. As an introductory press conference on mild-mannered, Steinbrenner insisted he would be the owner and trust the business of baseball to his front office. Such words elicited disbelief from those who worked for him, with his previous toy semi-pro basketball outfit named the Cleveland Pipers. The Pipers, Steinbrenner stood to the locker room to true team. Now, after losses, refused to pay players if they didn't win, and then threatened to fire them if they complained about it to the press. It didn't take long for Steinbrenner to practice micromanagement over half the teams in New York, turnover rate in New York. Yankees front office was a head-spinning frequency. Those who weren't fired by the temperamental Steinbrenner fled on their own volition to a saner working environment. Ralph Hall, the veteran Yankees manager with ties to the pre-CBS Always Days, saw Steinbrenner quit after 1 year with him. Bill Verdon Hawks such less than 2 years. Steinbrenner's third manager would go give birth to one of baseball's great love-hate working relationships. He had been 15 years since Bill Martin had played in the major leagues, but his disposition had hardly aged with grace. He had become a prominent manager with the same tense, hard-nosed attitude that sometimes reached below the belt. That attitude, unfortunately, didn't stop with his opponents. And Martin's managerial stints at Minnesota, Detroit, and Texas results were similar, taking sub-500 teams instantly turning them into winners just as instantly wearing out his welcome when getting fired after scuffling with anyone, went from traveling secretaries to marshmallow salesman unto his own players. Martin bragged that he was a no yes man, which must have left Yankee employees graceful impact when Steinbrenner brought him on in late 1975. Despite what he might have heard about Steinbrenner, Martin always considered himself a Yankee, saved the opportunity to down his strikes for the first time since 1957. And his first full season managing the Yankees in 1976 gave the usual performance with an upsurge in team performance. All was well with the Yankee world from now. Martin remade the team roster during the offseason, produced a series of trades, all of which worked in New York's favor. Among the new Yankees were starting pitchers like Ed Figueroa, Doc Ellis, outfielder Mickey Rivers, second baseman Willie Randolph, added with veterans coach catcher Thurman Munson, first baseman Chris Chambliss, and third baseman Craig Nettles, who hit 11 of his American League leading 32 homers in the month of April. The Yankees played consistent winning baseball all year, never seriously challenged in the American League East as they were welcomed back to rebuilt Yankee Stadium after 2 years playing at State Stadium. Pairing off against the Yankees in the ALCS The Kansas City Royals, who under White Hozard, another feisty manager in his first full year, were a group of young, speedy line drive, crazy athletes perfectly built to excel on the fast extra turf at Royal Stadium. Having finally ended the Oakland A's 5-year reign at the top of the American League West, the Royals was not sure to be taken like by the Yankees, who lost 7 of 12 regular season games to Kansas City. Even after playing rotten baseball in September and without the service of star Alfred Amos Otis, the Royals gave Morton's Yankees everything they had. It came down to a thrilling, decisive fifth game in which the Yankees, blowing a 3-run lead in the eighth inning via George Glass into Yankee Stadium's upper deck, go with the leadoff first pitch solo shot of Chris Jones in the ninth that sent the fans into a state of utter delirium. The Yankees' euphoria would be stopped cold by the red hot Cincinnati 9 at the World Series. Even the uncharacteristically deflated Martin conceded that his team was roundly swept in 4 games, that the Yankees had been beaten by one of the greatest teams in baseball history, as the Reds became the first baseball club to sweep the NLCS and the Fall Classic. The Reds were powered by those neither collected MVPs nor hit 300 during the year. Johnny Bench, the catcher whose off-field domestic problems affected his play, plunged up through 234 with just 16 wrong runs, came about with a 5.33 batting average, 8 for 15, pair of homers. Don Dryson, a part-time 247 hitter, took advantage of the designated hitter role in the first series to allow it, hit 357 with 2 doubles and a homer. And Cincinnati pitching staff again a solid collection of no-name hurlers at Suns New York bats by allowing 222 batting average, only 8 runs. For the entire postseason, Johnny Bench hit 444 with 2 doubles, a triple, 3 home runs, and 7 RBIs. The first full free agent market opened for business after the 1976 World Series, and an agreement between management and players. A special draft will be held in which each team could pick up to 12 free agents from which they could sign 2. Only one team declined to participate, the Cincinnati Reds, finally believing they were above leaning behind free agency to maintain championship level of baseball. They had displayed over the past 2 seasons, back-to-back seasons. Joe Steinbrenner, on the other hand, embraced free agency and sensed the immediate impact it could bring to the franchise. So he reached deep into his pocketbook to begin win the best team money could buy. So that's it for the day. Be back tomorrow for new live streams. Talk to you tomorrow.